My name is Donna Watson. I'm a lover of God and a minister of finances. That's my bio. I'm an attorney. I work in estate planning, but really what drives me and who I am is really about ministering about money and the kingdom.
Should I say something? Good morning. I'm Dave Whalen. I'm a financial advisor. I got to speak up. I don't need a microphone to speak up. But I'm Dave Whalen. I am a financial advisor, and the Lord has been good to me. So I'm glad to be here to share what I can. But you know what? A lot of us already know what we need to do with money. Money is just a tool. So today we'll explore a couple of other avenues. I hope I don't step on anybody's toes, but if I do, just holler. All right? Y'all not interested in laughing today? What is wrong with y'all? I thought that was funny. All right. So in the Bible, of course, it does talk a lot about money. And it's like anything else, how we use the Bible versus how we internalize them. But I got to start off with a little prayer that my sister, who has gone on, used to say every morning. And that was, "Dear God, speak into my words today. Think into my thoughts today. Work in all of my deeds today. I am yours to use today and forever, and so it is." And she would start her morning that way. And it's always good to start your morning with a prayer. This thing about money, after 18 years now, 8 years a banker and now 18 years a financial advisor, it's human nature for us to ask these questions. Where did my money go? How did I get in so much debt? How can I get more money? How can I grow my money? How can I protect my money? And how do I pass it on? I get those questions all the time from people. And it's simply the fundamentals, not only in the Bible, but in what we do each and every day. My daddy used to say, spend less than you earn. Don't spend all your money. Save some money. That theory is the same today, fundamentally, for people who want to have money, because we never know what's going to happen. You know, over the last few years, we've had everything happen, from COVID to the war in Ukraine to the interest rates going up. The question is, how do we use money? How do we want to use it? What are our priorities? And the Bible talks about that, is that the Lord can tell who you are by the priorities and the use of your money, because we think it's so important. However, he also says in Philippians 4:11-13 that money is a tool with which to accomplish predetermined purposes. So we all have to pay lights, water, and gas, and now cable and all the other stuff. But what else do we do with our money? Number one, in my budget, I have 3 items. The first item is tithing. And I was not always a tither. I would give out of my pocket. Whatever was in my pocket when I came to St. James, that's what I would give. But I learned from someone that that's not tithing. And so today I'm a cheerful giver, and have been for a number of years, to give the Lord 1/10 of my money. Now, I'm a firm believer that I'm not giving to the Lord. A inspiration came to me that the Lord don't really need money. You know, when we relegate God to, and the pastors may not like this, but I think they know it's true, God don't need our money. He puts the sun in the sky and the moon, and you know, he does all this stuff for us each and every day. He don't need our money. The church needs our money so that the doors can be open. So the doors can be open for people to come in. If anybody can spell Deuteronomy quickly, I will give you $5. That's what I thought. You can't spell it. Don't tell me you can spell it. And Deuteronomy 8:18 says, "But remember the Lord God, for it is He who gives you the ability and so confirms His covenant, which He swore to you and your ancestors." The Lord, when I study those words, a lot of us think that we are so smart, so intelligent, so clever, that we have the skill ourselves. God gives us the ability. God gives us the ability. The words gives you the ability is really key, and that's what you need to respect. It's one verse in Proverbs, and I'm going to turn this over to Donna, but it's one verse in Proverbs 15:14. The NIV version says, "The discerning heart seeks knowledge, but the mouth of a fool feeds on folly." And the interpretation of that in the study Bible says, what we feed our minds is just as important as what we feed our bodies. So when I say money is important, money is a tool, it's also what we feed our minds is directly related to how we use our money. So if we feed our minds good thoughts, then we'll normally do the right thing with it. Lastly, in this world of money, it is always good to be generous. The wealth process of being able to collect money is great, but to be generous as you can to those who don't have as much is also required for people of faith. Having said that, how many people are with AARP? I don't know what's wrong with y'all, but you know what this thing is? For you all who don't know I'm cheap, this thing is $12 a year. Understand what I just said, $12 a year? It has all kind of benefits and discounts that I didn't even use until about 6 months ago. I saved $200 on a car rental. And that was good for me to save $200 one time. We need to be in AARP. I'm trying to get a job with them. Because I think I would be a good spokesman. I'm of that age now. But anyway, thank y'all for listening to me. Thank you for your prayers. They're being heard by my son. I appreciate you.
So I work in the area of estate planning. And the tips that David and people like David in those service areas, the tips that they give you help us amass things during our lifetime. However, sometimes we don't take the next step to make sure that we preserve those assets after our death. And that's the space that I work in. That's going to be the topic that I'm going to discuss today. And people may say it's morbid to talk about what happens after I die. But we may retire. We may become an entrepreneur. We may acquire certain things in our life. But the operative word is may. What will surely happen is that you will die. That will surely happen. And as stewards of the Lord, why not get your affairs in order? And I'm going to talk about two types of affairs to get in order. Affairs that we should get in order for our person to manage risk against ourselves, and the affairs that we get in order to deal with our assets at death. Okay? So those are the two topics I'm going to talk about. I don't know if the slides are ready, but I'm always ready to pivot because I don't see anyone up there. So we're going to talk about ways to manage risk during our lifetime. So during our lifetime, you may become incapacitated. I know 2 years ago, I broke my toe. And when I broke my toe, I was unable to get around. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that I had a impactful incapacitation, but I was incapacitated. And so I needed to have things in place in case I had financial matters to take care of. So I have a durable power of attorney. Yes, I'm 50 years old and I have a durable power of attorney. What this power of attorney does, it assigns an agent, assigns an agent to serve on my behalf. They handle all of my financial matters should I become incapacitated or just not feel like dealing with my financial matters. Why is that important? Because things can change at a drop of a dime. A drop of a dime. Yesterday, I was talking to my girlfriend, and last night she had a stroke. Okay? This is real. And so when we're talking about being prepared and putting ourselves in positions so that we can continue functioning as people of God, this is real. Okay? So this durable power of attorney assigns an agent. What it does not do and what it is not designed to do, it is not a tool or mechanism for your family members to coerce you into becoming an agent. I have had so many people who have dealt with someone who is incapacitated asking me to draft a durable power of attorney so that they can begin speaking on their family members' behalf. That person does not have capacity to engage in a legal contract at that time. I'm going to tell you when it's the time to get a durable power of attorney. Today, tomorrow, contact an attorney. Tomorrow. If this is something that you still have undone, get it done. Why? Because things change at a dime. Also, let's talk about the living will and the healthcare directive. Why is that important? You want to have conversations with your family members about what artificial means you want to put in place. Why do you want to have those conversations? Nothing is worse than someone being on their deathbed and someone vacillating about whether we should keep them on life support or not. Does mother want to be on it? I don't know. Listening to the other family members talking about, you took mother off of life support, you killed my mama, or you're keeping my mother on life support, she didn't want to live this way, I can't stand you. Those things happen. And that is very, very real. And if you don't think it's real, keep living, okay? So you want to make sure that you start having those conversations with people. Some people didn't come today because they're at brunch. These are brunch topics. These are holiday topics. And people think, oh, that's morbid, but this is real. And so use any opportunity. If you're gathering as a family, let's slide in some conversations about estate planning. Because this is real, and we want to make sure that we're preparing each other for life transitions, because the transitions are going to come. And then finally, let's talk about the healthcare power of attorney. You want to be able to speak on someone's behalf in case something arises. Why? Because there are HIPAA laws in place. People aren't just going to talk to you because that's your cousin and that's your friend and she doesn't care. Yes, you need some legal document that gives you the authority to have those conversations. And all three of those documents you need to have with every single healthcare provider that you have. Your dentist, your orthodontist, every single healthcare professional needs a copy of that. And these things shouldn't be a mystery. If you've named someone as an agent, tell them that you've named them as an agent, okay? People need copies of these documents, so make sure that those copies are available. These are very important documents, and you should have that during your lifetime, all right? Now I want to talk about what we do at our death. So David works with people to make sure that they have money for retirement, that they've put money away. We have IRAs, 401ks, people buy houses, real estate, people are investing in the stock market. There are all kinds of assets that we have. And so there are ways of distributing those assets at your death. The first one is out of operation of law. And when I say out of operation of law, there's no legal formalities. And when I say legal formalities, I don't mean you don't do anything. What I'm saying is you don't have to go to court to make sure that those assets transfer. That means that during your lifetime, you have either held those assets in joint ownership, you may have had a beneficiary designation for those assets, you may have a transfer on death notation for those assets or a payable on death notation. What is that, Donna? What I'm saying is I have a bank account. Currently, it is my bank account, but I have a cousin that when I pass away, all of my bank accounts go to. I feel comfortable. It doesn't give her immediate rights to all of my accounts. She's on some of them, but not all of them. It doesn't give her an immediate right to ownership, but at death, it just automatically goes there. All she has to do is present her ID. They're like, oh, this is Michaela. Okay, yes, Michaela can have all of these assets. Boom. Some people don't plan in this way, and we'll talk about that later, but these are very easy ways to transfer assets at death. And it's so important that we contemplate whether we want to go through more formal processes or not. For some accounts, it's not even worth going to probate. Just put somebody else's name on the account or designate it to transfer to them at death. Easy. Okay, the second way we transfer at death is through a will. And people say, oh, I have a will. Okay, so it's just going to go to the people. No, if you have a will and these assets are not the assets that I just talked about, joint title, beneficiary designation, transfer on death, payable on death, then they are probate assets and you are going to probate court. Yes, you're going to probate court. Now, some people say, why would you go to probate court? There's a lot of reasons why people still want to go through the process of probate. Maybe you need to name a guardian. You have minor children. And so you want to open an estate to get that formal guardianship designated, okay? Sometimes you go through the formalities of going through probate because you have blended families. You know, gone are the days where, and I'm not saying that this doesn't happen, but more often than not, people are on multiple marriages. They have children outside of marriages or the first marriage, and they've had subsequent marriages. So our family structure is a little bit more complicated. So we want to make sure that we go through probate because maybe we want to disinherit someone. Maybe we want to acknowledge someone that we maybe haven't publicly acknowledged, but we want to legally acknowledge at our death. And these are real circumstances. And we need to make sure that we have a will in place. So even if you have all assets that are owned jointly, that are going to transfer out of operation of law, I still say you need a will. You need a will because sometimes you might inherit a piece, an asset or a piece of property that wasn't part of your estate plan. You inherited it. You may die before it gets transferred, then how is that going to be transferred? So the probate court will have to deal with that issue. So that's another way, a reason why everyone should have a will, regardless of whether your assets are owned in the first way out of operation of law. Third, you can have assets in a trust. And a trust is really the vehicle in which we can start seeing some generational wealth. What a trust is a relationship in which assets are managed by a trustee on your behalf for a beneficiary. And when we are managing those kinds of assets, we have, as a trustee, you have the freedom to sell those assets, generate interest on those assets, and you distribute that interest or however it's designated in the trust agreement. But you may distribute those assets per the agreement. That trust really gives you the flexibility as a maker to prolong the life of an asset. In those other scenarios that I talked about, they're just outright distributions. And how many of you know people that they get a windfall of money and they just blow it? But that trust is really a way of kind of preserving those assets over time so that they continue to grow. This is really the technique in which we can start really building some generational wealth. But we want to, if you want to talk about trust at any time, that's the lane that I work in. That's something I'm very passionate about. It's very important. And then finally, there is the I'm not going to do anything method. That's when I just throw my hands up. I don't care. You all take care of this. I'm going to be gone. No will, no trust, no operation of law. And as Christians, we can't bury our heads in the sand. That's not a responsible way of dealing with what God has given us. We have to see that through. And if you saw that slide, I always include like just money just going out the window, because that's what's going to happen. By the time you pay legal fees, by the time you have to get caught up in terms of trying to make sure that those assets are distributed, you're going to lose a lot of money. So we want to make sure that's not the technique that we decide to use. So we want to either have assets distributed out of operation of law. Everyone needs a will. You might want to create an irrevocable trust, but we are not doing the I'm not doing anything method. Okay. So we want to protect ourselves. We want to protect our property. It is the way that we are going to create generational wealth. And here's my editorial. We're behind. We as a people are behind. So we have got to start making some different decisions. And I'm going to tell you, I work with people who have decided as a generation that they were going to make sacrifices so that their next generation will have money to buy a home. As David said, interest rates are astronomical. We've hit a 22-year high with this recent increase. And I'm just saying, we're behind. We have got to start thinking about our long-range goals in terms of money. I think what the church is doing in order to eradicate debt is so important, because once you're out of debt, you're free. You are free. And you can start moving and doing some things to really build for the kingdom. So I hope that these comments were helpful. I hope that you take heed to what I'm saying. And I'd like to show the next slide. So I'm always a person of action. So by August 31st, if you've heard anything in this message, I want you to try to do something by August 31st. If that's starting to have conversations with your family, if that's telling who you've selected as an agent, tell them. If it's contacting an attorney because you want to get a will, contact them. You need to do something by August 31st, because it's great for David and I to sit here and tell you these things, but if you're not moved to action, then we just sat here and talked for a half an hour. And I love to talk, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to help move the kingdom, okay? So August 31st, do something. And if you need an accountability partner, there's someone in here that you can talk to. Say, hey, I'm going to do something. You don't have to tell them your business, and I think that's something that we struggle with. That's my business. But as Christians, we got to be accountable to one another. Iron sharpens iron. So do something in the next month based on what you've heard. I hope this was helpful. You want to give some more comments?
I just wanted to, hello, is this? I just wanted to add, as Donna was talking, it just reminded me that a lot of times I run into people, and just recently, that people don't change beneficiaries on their insurance policies, on their retirements. One of my clients' mother passed away, and she was actually the beneficiary on the insurance policy, and now my client passed away. And so that created a whole nother problem because the initial beneficiary is gone. So the young lady didn't change from her mother after she passed away. This was 4 years. So the action is needed. We sit here a lot. Donna and I probably do the most work for people who are behind. They haven't done anything or it's too late. Donna can't do a beneficiary for somebody that's already had a stroke or something. You can't do it then. Because once the impairment takes place, you can't do anything. Now you got to go to court. And then just lastly, for you all who don't know, when Donna says that things can change quicker than what did you say, a dime?
It can change on a dime.
It could change quicker than that. Because a week ago yesterday, my son was a healthy person, and he had a stroke. And what we're doing now is we're probably going to have to do guardianship and conservatorship to handle his business. We didn't think about it. That's the problem. We don't think about it. But you're there now. We're there now. So it's important. And I know we talk, people like me and like Donna, we talk about this stuff about, coming to grips with doing action. You don't have to do anything, but it's going to cost your family something. Somebody always has to clean up. Somebody always has to clean up. Whether it's you, I prefer you to do it. But if you're not here or incapacitated, you're not going to be able to do it. Family members have to do it at that point. So thank you.
So just real quick, AV team, if you can, there were some folks that were participating from their silence, but they were taking pictures of the slides. So Dwayne, if we can go through and show all the slides 1 or 2 more times, just as we continue to talk, and allow people to take pictures of the information that was shared. David, you had a slide. Did you want that shown?
Yeah, I forgot to tell him to put it up.
That's okay.
But he can put it up after that.
Yeah, put up David's slide after we go through this, but to give everybody a chance to take a picture, get information. Our prayer today and our prayer every day is that you are able to come to church not only to gain some knowledge and information about the Bible, but how we can just be in a better position ourselves. And I think this is also a part of that. So I greatly appreciate it. If you want to take pictures, please, now is the time to do that as we continue to go through the different slides. That way you can talk to your financial advisor or those folks that are here today. Hey, I got a question about this. Well, this was covered here. Folks, if we don't talk, and we're people that don't talk about really important stuff, we talk about other things, but really important stuff like this, we don't have those conversations. So one of the things we wanted to do here was give that opportunity. Now, if there are questions, and you have a question right here and right now, we've got a few minutes left on the time clock, on the meter, to allow you to ask a question of the panelists, or if there's any more information the panelists, Donna, you or David, y'all want to say that you wanted to bring up, we will do that. My first question is Ms. Linda Walker.
I don't have a question, I have a testimony. If you don't have your business together, or you're struggling financially, when David is available, you go talk to him because he helped get me straight. And I know I still owe you some money. I'm waiting on the lottery. But he is really wonderful in doing that. And one of the things Donna said about planning, because I experienced when my parents declined, that my father had turned everything over to somebody else's name. So there was no problem. And when my mother was alone, then nothing was in her name, and so she was able to qualify more quickly for Medicaid. It's where you get the most services. So it is a great thing, and thank you all for sharing.
So we can do a couple of things at one time. I've asked the usher board if they would come out and pass around the offering tray. So if you guys will do that while we're continuing to ask questions, I'm coming right back to you. Brother Carl Boyd, you had your question up. Your hands up, please. Yeah.
I wanted to ask Donna two questions. One, I have a tenant in common provision on my house, for my son. Does that cover if I'm passing on that the house will automatically be in his name? Do I need any other protection on that?
So a tenant in common means that you each own a partial, divisible part of a home. When you pass away, he owns his part. There's no plan for your part unless you have a will that's directing what happens to your interest in real estate, or you have made some other provisions or have some alternate ownership on this title. Tenants in common is not the same as joint tenancy. It severs at death. So there's a divided interest at death. Your interest, his interest. So you still have to account for what happens to your interest at your death.
So I need to change it to a joint tenant?
I'm not going to tell you that you should. Okay, so let me say this. I can't give you legal advice based on those few facts that you've given me. I would have to have a more comprehensive question. But what I will tell you is a tenant in common does not direct the distribution of your portion of that home.
Okay, thank you. And one other quick question. On bank accounts and 401s, etc., I have the beneficiaries listed out. Is there anything else that I need to?
Is there anything else you need to? Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is this a sufficient plan?
Yes.
So one thing, you can have beneficiaries. That designates what would happen to you at death. You should always have a primary beneficiary and a contingent beneficiary. You could die today, your beneficiary could die tomorrow, and then what's going to happen to this life insurance? So you want to make sure that you always come up with an alternative plan. In addition to that, I still think everyone needs a will, because that will direct anything that's not fully captured in your estate plan to the court. So I guess my answer is yes and no. Make sure you revisit it. Make sure it's updated. Just as David said, estate planning is an ongoing process. It's not something you do 1 year and then you're done, because life changes, circumstances change. And so we have to continue to revisit it. But that's what I would say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions, and then I want to give David Whalen a chance to cover his slides. All right, so computer, I had someone right here.
I just wanted to make a comment that in preparing a will or an estate, that each of us need to make sure that we understand the terminology as it is written in a will or an estate before you sign off on it, because that terminology can sometimes be very tricky and leave you without not knowing what it means. So as you sign something, ask them to explain it to you before you sign off on it, so that you're very clear when it is completed that this is the way you want things to happen.
That's a very good point. I just want to say something about that. So not everyone drafts the same way, and I think sometimes people know attorneys and they'll say, I need a will, I need a trust. You want to go to an estate planning attorney, not a criminal law attorney, not a medical malpractice attorney. Someone just asked me about a contingency in their will. Does it arise automatically? Those are the nuances that someone that practices in this area will know. They won't use boilerplate language that you get off of the internet, okay? They know that you say, alternatively, if this person is unwilling to serve, if this person is incapacitated, automatically the contingent beneficiary will serve, okay? So you make an excellent point, and I think people are well-meaning, but you want someone that specializes in this because you want to make sure you get it right.
Okay, this is a concern about children, families with children. You all know that we are losing a lot of our children today. And what happens in most cases? They end up having to raise money to bury them. Well, I know back when my children were younger, we were given some poor advice by some professionals saying that we didn't need to get insurance for our children. That is not true. If we get our insurance, if we get insurance on those children when they're very young, such as with Globe Life Insurance Company, it's just a few dollars a month, about $3 to $5 a month if you get it early. Later, it's only about $8 a month or so. And keep that insurance. When they become young adults, don't turn it over to them until you know, pretty sure, that they are mature enough to keep it. Because yours truly turned over to children and one grandchild too early. So it's very important to help your children and your grandchildren. You can easily get insurance on your grandchildren. Just go ahead and ask that mother if those children are insured. Thank you.
My question is, oh, go ahead. Did you need some comments on?
I was just going to say, did they cash it in? Yeah. See, it's either one or the other. If you turn it over to them sometime. Now, you know, they get to be 18 and it's legally theirs. Pretty kind of, sort of.
Not if they don't know about it.
Well,
Lord have mercy. So,
well, you can. I'm not saying you can't, but yeah.
so Angela, I just want to make sure we guarantee Dave a chance to cover his slides.
Go ahead, Dave, with your slide.
Go ahead.
Okay, my question is, I know, Donna, you've said about a will and a trust, and that's a shame. I didn't know you were an attorney. You right here in my church.
That's why we do this.
Yeah, right. But do you have to have both, or is one more important than the other, or is it all very important? And then I just want to make the comment, as far as a health care directive, we had to figure out whether or not to give my grandmother, she was 96, morphine because she was dying, and the hospital left it up to us. We had no one had any conversations with her about this. So it's really, really important, because it's hard when you have to decide if someone's going to live or die. That's a choice that you need to make yourself, and you need to let your family know. And you need to put it in writing, because it's difficult, and those types of things tear families apart. And y'all know all it takes is for somebody to die and have $2, and everybody's fighting like a fool over the $2. So please, let's get these things taken care of.
AV team, if you would please, let's go to Dave's slide so we don't forget.
We'll go to Dave's slide, and I just want to say you should have both. So if you have a trust, you usually have a pour-over will that would capture anything that's not titled in the name of the trust. I say everyone should have a will. Everyone should have a will, whether you have a trust or you have joint ownership or beneficiary designations. Everyone should have a will because you just never know, something may happen. So.
That slide up there, you know, folks, after a lot of years, you start learning things. I can tell you this, that Miss Flodine and I, we always talk about reading and trying to stay up on the language of money, because as the young lady says, if you don't understand the language of money, you could be signing something that could cause you a lot of problems down the road. But that slide that he had up there is my number one tool for people who want to manage their money is a budget. I call it, people don't like the word budget for whatever reason, but I also call it a spending plan. All it is a plan to spend your money. But in order to manage your money, you must have some tool. And so a spending plan covers almost everything from your savings, how much money am I going to save, paying my monthly expenses, paying my credit and debt, retirement, insurance. Unexpected stuff comes up all the time, like this year. How many people are having or think they're going to have problems with their new property assessment that has gone up? Because on my property, it went up 47%. So we always have to save money because there are always going to be something unexpected coming up. Now, what it is, I don't know, but there's always something. And then lastly, you notice I have estate planning in there. Donna said one critical thing, and I think you all can understand this, and this is how I explain it to my clients. You can go to a general doctor, but if you have a nose, ear, or throat problem, you're going to go to a specialist. And the same thing with a estate planning attorney. He's just a specialist in the area of planning estates. So he's the one. I know people say, I have an attorney, I'll have him do it, but they don't, but sometimes I shouldn't say they don't. It is about the expertise and experience, and that's what you're looking for when you're trying to do these things.
Also, there are different requirements based on what state you live in, and with us being in such close proximity between Kansas and Missouri, sometimes people think, oh, well, I heard this, I heard that. But you want to make sure that you have state-specific advice. And most attorneys in this area practice across the state line, but we also are required to have continuing education in this area. So we're aware of the changes in the laws. And laws do change. And so you want someone that's familiar with those type of things and know best practices related to your state. So
They change every year. Something changes every year. So.
Get a question or comment?
I would like to know how much an attorney should charge you to do those things. What's the range of a price that attorneys should give you a fair amount?
Okay, so I know people ask this question all the time, and I think, so it depends. It depends on how long they've been practicing, how large their firm is. I've seen people who have executed wills, but they execute a will, they look at your entire estate plan, they do the healthcare directives, maybe like $1,000. I've seen $2,500. I've seen $5,000. But this is what I say about that. What do you feel comfortable paying? Like, I don't think someone is going to gouge you, but you have to understand that some people are going to charge some varying prices. It's almost like either you can drive a Honda or you can drive a Mercedes. Do you want Mercedes service or do you want Honda service? So I think what you really want to do is just make sure that you're comfortable. They have a published rate for their services. That's helpful. Usually on their website they say, or they can present to you a schedule. I also think that it's important that sometimes they give like a free consultation. That would be the time that I would kind of flush out what comes with that services. But if you're talking about creating like a trust and they're retitling all your assets, that can be anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 to $7,000. And here's the thing. We spend money on what we want to spend money on. And I think sometimes as a legal professional, people, the temperature, their energy around paying for legal services is low. But we'll vacation, we will have balling out parties for our kids when they turn 16, 18, graduate from college. Why not spend money on things that are going to protect you? Now, you've worked hard to own a home, and you don't want to spend $3,000 to make sure that that home is protected. This isn't directed towards you. This is what I'm just saying generally in terms of fees. So make sure that you talk to them about their fees, but I'm saying it's like thousands. It is thousands. And no good estate planning attorney is just going to, I'll just do a will for you. They want to talk about everything because it's too isolated to just give you that service. They want to make sure that this will is working in companion with all of your other estate planning vehicles.
And we're just going to finish up with prayer, but give a great big hand clap for Dave Whalen and Donna Watson. And if you really wanted to show appreciation, definitely get their contact information. They may have a card that they can give to you. If they don't, they can just blurt out their phone number to you. Call them. Call them, y'all. It's time. It's time for us to do what we need to be doing. This goes directly hand in hand with debt reduction, connecting people with God in practical ways, how we can help the community, and how we can help ourselves.